Welcome back, everyone. We hope you had a Merry Christmas, and the Midwest F1 League has one more present for you. Round number 6 of this heavyweight championship bout of a Division 1 season, and it's taking place at the Temple of Speed, the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Beautiful day here in Italy, and just a mere 12 miles northeast of Milan is a 5.8-kilometer circuit that features 11 corners, each with its own slice of history. And as if the two DRS zones weren't enough for overtaking, the long straight after Ascari into Parabolica make for exciting wheel-to-wheel action, as well as the Rettifilo and Raggia chicanes. So a race that may define the rest of this championship, the rest of this season. Its formation lap begins in 10 seconds time once again. Midwest F1 brought to you by Raze Energy, Sim Racer Coin, Epos Audio. Quick shout out, first of all, Mickey64, his 100th Midwest F1 Grand Prix. That is quite an impressive feat, to say the least. But here in Division 1, this looks like Dace a little slow to get off the line there. CPI T-Brum leading the field to green. Let's go ahead and look at the tires for tonight. I'm quite interested to see one driver on the softs. It's Scavney down in 12th. Everyone else, it looks like the mediums have dominated. 2nd to 10th on mediums, Hoxit on mediums, Racing Design mediums, Say Cake on mediums only. 5 drivers on hards, one of them being the leader, pole position of CPI T-Brum on hards. That, you'd have to think, would be detrimental off the starting grid. And he's got 2 really quick drivers immediately around him. Another one right there as well, and another. And another. So, what's happened there? Shiraya and Scavney look to have made contact on the formation lap. And they've been sent back to the grid. So, tire strategy. Mediums, 15 to 18. Hards, 17 to 22. Really, I don't expect, assuming that we're not going to get a safety car, which, by God, we might get a few of those. Assuming no safety cars are in play, it's going to be, I'd say, a pretty relatively lame race as far as tire strategy. One stop, and it kind of looks like everyone, I will say, if there's anything I've noticed about the qualifying rules now, and you can start on whatever tire you want, it has made the tire selection and strategy so much more, I hate to use the word boring, but boring. It used to be so fun to see what drivers qualified on what tire and how they'd make that transpire in the race. Now it's basically you do whatever you want and you're probably going to get away with it because that's just kind of how it works. T-Brum, an impressive burnout there to say the least, leads the field up to their grid slots. I have to say, T-Brum doing some impressive burnouts there as the grid forms up. Let's see how they angle themselves into the into the grid boxes here. T-Brum points himself relatively straight. So does Dace. Scornsy, look where he is pointed. And I have to say, directly in between T-Brum and Dace off the starting line. Race Day's pointed down to that inside line. Edgar's kind of going to follow in his teammates' footprints, it has to be said. But really, it's going to be a race for safety and a race for real estate here, as the lights now turning on here in Monza. 4, 5, and they're off. Who gets the best start? I think T-Brum's gotten away pretty well considering he's on the hard tires. Scornsy's gotten away really well. Can he have the outside heading into the first corner? He's going to tuck right in behind the Mercedes. He's going to look for it down around the outside, and he's going to have to go over the chicane. And it looks as if Scornsy is really going to lose some progress here. He didn't back it down quick enough to really get himself into position to get himself across the chicane, and that is really detrimental for him. What's even more detrimental, he's side by side, albeit just for a moment, with his teammate, and he's still there as they go through the Raggia chicane. That one has to be sorted out quickly, and it is. He's going to find his way down to the inside of Race Day 2016 for the 3rd spot, and it looks like after all is said and done, not much has changed except for this side-by-side battle for the final podium position. Remember, race day can really put himself in the championship hunt if he's got a good result here today. And hopefully that's what he gets. Down into the Ascari chicane. It's still side-by-side. Brilliant wheel-to-wheel racing here. Race day, I think, accidentally forces Scornsy off track. Didn't mean to do it, and look at the ground. Scornsy loses. Almost 2-3 cars get by him, and now he's going to try to go down the inside. Can he do all three of them into the corner? It looks like perhaps it didn't work. No, it didn't, but at least he's kept the inside. Contact between Race Day and Edwin nearly ended in oblivion, and it looks like Scornsy, after all is said and done, drops to fourth. But here's Edwin. Can he find his way down to the inside? Past Race Day 2016, it looks like he's going to do just that. But by goodness, we almost had an absolute disaster going through Parabolica. Scornsy almost pulled off a triple overtake for the ages. Unfortunately, after the first lap, he drops down to fourth. It's Edwin and Smith Pell now side by side through Curva Grande. Let's see if they get that one sorted before they get to the chicane, and it looks like yes, they will. Meanwhile, Sebrum has taken a 2.5-second lead out in front of Dace, but thankfully for Dace, he's done what he's needed to do, and he holds on to the second spot. Edgar fights his way up to third, avoids the carnage, avoids the conundrums with his teammate, and finds himself in third. And now, once again, Scornsy, I'm afraid, has not gotten a great start here, and really has to get back on it. But how hard does he have to fight his teammate? How hard will he fight his teammate? That's going to be a question that'll be answered when DRS comes into play next time around. Goodness gracious, what an opening lap there, and it looks like Skadny up 3 spots. A reminder, he's on the soft tires. Those will last between 11 and 13 laps, so that'll actually put him in good position for perhaps a soft to medium. I mean, that one wouldn't be bad. He'd really be getting towards the end of the tire life with the softs, but he's going to be looking down to the inside here. Does he get past Gott Palmer into the first corner? He's really going to stick it down the inside. Perhaps contact made, not enough to warrant any trouble. And it looks like, oh, but Mitch Burns, he's gotten pushed out a little bit wide there, loses a couple of positions, perhaps one to Lancey, perhaps one to Say, and he drops down to 12th. But now side by side with the Williams of Aero Racing Design, who he's up 4 spots since the start. There's one for him there. Nicely done from the Williams driver. Smith Pell is held stagnant in 7th. He's done well to avoid the carnage. Scornsy down a spot, Race Day down a spot. Edgar fought his way up to 3rd, and he's kept it so far, but he will have to defend against his teammate. But I will have to say, his teammate of Scornsy has looked a little bit on the back foot, especially through qualifying and now into the race. Does he realistically have enough to cement himself, I'd say in this point, even within the top 5, because here's Race Day 2016, edging ever so closer to the current championship leader, looking to really make some waves here. He'll have DRS. Scornsy will have it to his teammate ahead. Race Day sets the fastest lap. Scornsy's going to have DRS to his teammate of Edgar ahead. Edgar didn't have DRS that time, and I think it has to be said, Scornsy, without the help of his teammate there, probably, I think, would have lost that position to Race Day, because Race Day is only getting closer to that McLaren ahead. We have a yellow flag towards the back. It looks like Mitch Burns, and that's exactly what happened. Mitch Burns has taken a little bit of a spill going through the Retifilo chicane, and it looks like perhaps was Hoxit involved in that as well. Perhaps Shariah Coleslaw. I'm not quite sure. I only really caught on to the end of it, but we'll have to look at that one another time. Race Day within the slipstream of Scornsy head. Scornsy once again has DRS. Now, this is the only thing I'm noticing here. Race Day 2016 made an error. Now, you see, these are the thing. As a racing driver, these errors that you make. Now, it was a pretty, I'd say, vanilla error that he made. He lost the car. Oh, speaking of losing the car, we've got a Ferrari gone round going through the Ascari chicane. Oh my God, Say nearly backed into traffic there. Thankfully, he was not. He did not make any contact with anybody. Thankfully for him. Once again, here's Race Day. He'll have DRS to Scornsy ahead. But this is the only thing I'm slightly worried about. Remember, in the qualifying session, he had his little error through the second Lesmo. Now, it was a pretty mundane error. He didn't hit anything. It was just a little bit of a slide. But how quickly do errors compound themselves? The answer is very much so. Race day 2016 will somewhere in the back of his head be aware of that mistake, and he'll be doing his best to correct it, but where he focuses heavier in one area, he'll lose it in another. And that really, sometimes, it is just how it is, and there's no other way to put it. As a driver, you can't let those mistakes pile onto each other, and hopefully for race day's sake, that doesn't happen. EDA got Palmer closing in here on Scavney ahead. Scavney's had himself a great start. I'd say he's at a disadvantage with the tire strategy unless perhaps he makes the one-stop work from soft to medium. I mean, yeah. Do the math on what 13 plus 18 is. That'll give you an answer, and I think it might be in the good for Gott Palmer. We do have a yellow flag. It's Mitch Burns. Oh, and that's a front wing gone as well. That, oh goodness gracious, say nearly careened into the back of that AlphaTauri. Now, thankfully, it looks as if the debris left behind. He's lost his front wing, but it's off of the racing surface. It's in the grass coming out of the Ascari chicane, so perhaps, and I think the question's going to answer itself, we're not going to have any threat of safety car here, which I'd have to say right good from a racing perspective. And speaking of racing, Scornsy now, within a couple of tenths, only 4 of them, back to his teammate of Edgar. And meanwhile, Dace has suddenly climbed to within a second of Tebrum. Tebrum, mind you, had a second and a half after the first lap of the race. He has lost somewhere around 0.6 of a second. Where has he lost that? I'm not sure. But Dace, at the moment, doesn't have any threat of DRS from behind. Edgar doesn't have it on Dace. Scornsy has it on his teammate of Edgar. So, can Dace claw his way to the lead of the Grand Prix? Yellow flag, it looks like, say, off in between the two Lesmos. We'll have to keep an eye on that. The battle for third within 7/8 of a second here. Edgar leading the train. Let's take a look at Dace just quickly. Let's see if he's able to close in. He is, but not by any considerable margin to where it'd be a threat to make an overtake. He has, I will say, taken about 0.3 of a second off of the leader of CPI Tebrum just with DRS. So, perhaps, can Edgar get himself back in a position here, at least within DRS range? I mean, that may help Scornsy. That may ensue a battle for the lead here. 3-way battle for the lead. Scornsy right now has to worry about keeping it clean, and I think really figuring out a way around his teammate as Dusty Lusky looks like he's had a spill after the Redifilo chicane. Race day 2016, I have to say at the moment, looks to be pressuring Scornsy more than Scornsy is pressuring Edgar, and that is a dangerous game to play there. Race day is not going to have an overtake, not in this stretch of the track. I don't think it'd be hard-pressed to find an overtake happen there unless it was on a safety car restart. And, I mean, that's really the only case you'd see there. Dace, I will say, now within 0.7. At the rate at which he's closing, and at the rate at which he's putting back to Edgar as well, I'd say we can assume to see Dace formally attack for the lead within probably the next 3 to 4 laps, just on how much the DRS is helping him here. Look at him, he's already down to about half a second. He was 0.8 of a second before the DRS had opened, and now he's within it there. Scornsy and Edgar side by side, 2 McLarens battling it out here. Scornsy wanted the spot, Edgar didn't let him have it. And now, has this opened the door for race day? Race day's gonna try around the outside. Scornsy's boxed in behind his teammate here. He's gonna try it down the right side. Does he have it? No, and I think race day thought better of it as well and decided to back off before the chicane there. Goodness gracious, and now somewhere, and now listen to this, Dace, I think he's made a mistake somewhere. He's outside of 1.2, 1.3 seconds on CPI Tebrum. Somewhere, Dace has made a mistake, and it's cost him dearly. GSR Edgar doesn't really look to be improving his times that much at all either. All he is doing is holding up his teammate here. And speaking of his teammate, he's hot on his heels. Can Scornsy perhaps find something down with DRS? Race Day 2016 in this as well. Looks like Edwin also trying to poke his head into this battle. That's great and dandy there. We're going to look at Gott Palmer just for the time being. And it looks like Scavney on his way in now, entering the 10th lap. I'd say that's a bit early, as it looks like we've got a Ferrari off at the Ascari chicane. Scornsy doesn't really look like he has a solid attempt at Edgar there. And it'll have to wait another lap, I'm afraid. Race Day doing his best to keep himself within this battle. Does Race Day perhaps just kind of have to play this one smart and let the racing take place itself? And all I'm going to say is because Scornsy surely has to be frustrated sitting behind his teammate here. Arguably, he is faster than Edgar at the moment. Edgar, unfortunately I'm saying this, and I'm saying this brutally honestly, is all he's doing is losing time to Dace ahead. And he's holding up his teammate in the process. And he's also allowing the Alfa Romeo of Race Day in this battle as well. And meanwhile, Edwin also having a peek. He's not there yet, but perhaps does Edwin have something here as well? Scornsy, and really has to, shouldn't even want to, he has to get around GSR Edgar here within a reasonable time frame. Max rev limiter there. Still doesn't claw to within overtaking distance of his teammate ahead. Dace has once again fallen outside. As it looks like, oh, that looks like quite the incident there. That's, oh, goodness gracious. We've got Mitch Burns off. We've got Say, who I believe has just had a critical crash there. Say has DNF'd. Mitch Burns has picked up 5 seconds for a severe collision. And look at the carnage there in between the two Lesmos. And now, lo and behold, we've got a safety car on top of it. And that, has to be said, has changed the entire complexity of this Grand Prix. Man, and that was, it looked as if I couldn't really, it was a split second there, I didn't really see what happened, forgive me if I'm wrong. Did Mitch Burns lose it in between the Lesmos and Say just got caught up, or was it the other way around? I'm not quite sure. What I do know is that Say is retired, Mitch Burns is not, so Say has hit something hard enough to retire, and Mitch Burns is still driving. Do with that information as you will, I don't really know what it is. T-Brum in the pits, well, we can assume he's putting on mediums, everyone else behind him putting on hards, and I'd have to say, this is probably what T-Brum was hoping for here. He was hoping for the safety car, get the stint on the hards out of the way, get the stint on the mediums. I mean, the mediums, it'll be tough. 15 to 18 laps, the window for the mediums. Now, of course, a lot of it's a couple laps at least are going to be spent under safety car here. As look at this, and this is something else that Scornsy has a reason to be frustrated with. GSR Edgar, naturally being the car out in front of the pair of the McLarens, has had the priority of the pit. Scornsy's been stuck in a double stack, and now finds himself behind the Alfa Romeo of Race Day. This is excruciating pain here for Scornsy. And now finds himself really, I'd say, in an even more uncomfortable position. Because not only has he got his teammate of Edgar ahead, who's defending like a lion for some reason, and now he's got Race Day, who, once again, Race Day, only 20 points out of the top two in the championship battle. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Only 20 points out of the lead, roughly, give or take, out of the lead for the championship. GSR Ryan Rods isn't here. He's down by 10. Race Day just, I think, 2 points out of that 20-point window. So, race day, at the moment, if he can improve... Now, I tell you what, I don't think a 4th place is necessarily comfortable for him. But it's going to be 90 more points than Ryan Rods is earning today, that part's for sure. Once again, just keep it clean. And as I step aside, keep it tuned in. So the safety car driver virtually has said he's had enough fun and he's going to return it to the pits. CPI Tebrum out in front on the medium tires. This is crucial. He started on the hards, he's on the mediums now. I think towards the end of the session he might be on the back foot, but for the foreseeable future he will have the pace advantage over fresh hards. I tell you what, it's also much easier to keep and get and maintain tire temperature. As you can see, look at that. That's just a beautiful shot, that one. In the hard tires, it'll be much more difficult to keep the temperature. Tebrum, I think, really will have an advantage off the start here. Once again, GSR Edgar was ahead of his teammate Scornsey and had the priority in the pits. Scornsey has fallen behind race day in the pits, and now it's all to play for. GSR Edgar looking down the left side of Dace. He's not going to have it. Is that perhaps contact to the rear by race day? It doesn't look like there was any, as it turns out. However, Dace, and that is not good at all. Dace now has come together, and Scornsey, oh my goodness, Scavney's been involved. Scornsey, I believe, is missing front wing. Race day's overtaken the McLaren of Edgar. That is a huge accident then. Mitch Burns, Scavney rather, has gotten caught up in something there. His car launched about 3 feet in the air, but and I need some better camera angles here, game. That's all that's all there is to be said. Who has picked up the wing damage? Edgar, definitely one of them. He's missing the majority of his front wing. Scornsey, is he missing an end plate? As we've got more carnage towards the back, it looks as if Mitch Burns Tiger NASCAR has had something happen there. Scornsey somehow has gotten away with that one scot-free. Race day has managed to avoid the carnage, finds himself second. Down to the inside now, it's Dace, I'd say looking for it on Smith Pell. Dace got caught up in it. He's missing a hefty chunk of his right front wing. He is severely off the pace. He's going to let both of the Haas cars go by. Edgar's got 5 seconds for speeding into the pits, and now it shapes up like this as Dusty Lusky and Impossible Bacon, rather, side by side. Edgar has retired in the pits. Down in the corner, Bacon's got the advantage. Dusty Lusky's going to strike right back. Does he have the outside? And that was a brilliant use of chicanery then, pun intended, by Dusty Lusky. That was brilliant, and he was able to hold the spot, but only just because the Red Bull, and it's almost 3 wide then, because Hawksid wants in on this. Will he have it? He's going to try the outside of Dusty Lusky through the Rajia chicane. Doesn't have it. Dusty Lusky at that point looked as if he had the position and had kept it, but that wasn't the case. Tebrum stayed out of trouble. He's first. Race day stayed out of trouble. He is second. Scornsey, I think, has stayed out of trouble. He remains third. And he's got GSR Edwin in hot pursuit. Scornsey's not going to have DRS to anyone ahead. Scornsey will have to defend this final podium position to GSR Edwin in fourth. Aero Racing Design, remember him? He's up currently 11 spots up into fifth. DRS enabled. And now let the fun begin. And I, again, just wonder what's happened with Edgar and Scavney and the rest there going through Curva Grande. We didn't really get a good look at it. So much had happened in so little time. I'm going to leave about a 4-5 second gap to myself here, just as an editor's note, to throw in a clip if I can find it. Okay, that was more like 10 seconds, but it'll do the job. Anyways, now, Edwin outside of a second on Scornsey. Won't have the DRS. still doesn't have it. Aero Racing Design in pursuit. Can we look at the tires? CPI T-Brum atop the table so far on his medium tires, and it's going to stay that way for quite some time. Again, I don't think he's going to be at a tire disadvantage until the back end of the Grand Prix, and we're almost there, but not quite yet. Again, he's had some laps under safety car as well. Scavney, mind you, was on pace to pull off a really good race strategy-wise. Started on the softs, made his stop about 4 laps, give or take, before the safety car came out, went to the mediums, sat behind the safety car on the mediums, and I believe had himself well within the top 10. And unfortunately for him, it's all come crashing down rather quickly as well. And rather unexpectedly, we'd have to say, just to pile on top of that. Aero Racing Design within 0.6 of a second of Edwin ahead. It'll be fun to look at the Discord after that one. And I'm surprised we didn't get a safety car either. There was debris everywhere. There were cars everywhere. We had, albeit one retirement on track, a second retirement resulted in, and it was because of Edgar, who went and retired in the pits, thankfully in the pits. Never like to see a driver retire, but at least he did it in the pits, as he should. GSR Hoxton now within 0.3 on Impossible Bacon ahead. Impossible Bacon within 0.3 on Shariah Coleslaw ahead. I read the sheet wrong. These two, has to be said, have themselves a relatively quiet day so far, albeit Bacon up 5 spots, Coleslaw and his teammate in the other Haas of Lancey up 2 apiece. The big story so far, Aero Racing Design up 11. And he might have another one here, as Edwin doesn't seem to be closing in on the McLaren of Scornsey ahead, and is in quite the deficit. 1.5 seconds. Aero Racing Design's going to have open air if he can find a way around the Mercedes, and I think he's just unfortunately ran out of real estate there, and he's ran out of time to make that one happen. Impossible Bacon, I think, has had the same happen to him. Was not able to climb within reach of Shariah Coleslaw, but same goes for Coleslaw. He's got open air ahead of him. He's not got DRS. He's not even really got his teammate to help him here, because his teammate of Lancey in a battle as well, trying to find some ground to Smith Pell ahead, who, by the way, trying to chase down EDA got Palmer. So much action happening here. 0.5 of a second separate Aero Racing Design and Edwin ahead. CPI T-Brum will only be the 4th. Well, I say 4th, as in that's a bad thing. We've had 5 Grand Prix. It will only be the 4th different winner. Well, he'll be the 4th different winner of a 6-round season so far. So yeah, I guess it's good. Good for T-Brum. He's not there yet. He'll have to hold on. And speaking of holding on, Aero Racing Design, I believe, is forcing Edwin's grip to slip. And slip it has, down to 5th. Goes GSR Edwin, albeit he held on for as long as he could. And thankfully he's got a bit of a cushion back to EDA got Palmer behind him. As it looks like now, Impossible Bacon, does he have anything for Coleslaw into the first corner? Doesn't appear that he does. And I think Coleslaw's gotten a much better getaway out of the second corner as well. As GSR Hoxton looking around the outside of Bacon. This is danger spot. Bacon really getting his elbows out there. Hoxton nearly had 2 wheels into the grass. Hoxton wants it into the Raggia chicane. Oh, and that's big contact there. And Impossible Bacon is going to drive away from the scene of the crime there. Yeah, I'm not going to point fingers because that'd be the wrong thing to do. Should Bacon have left space? Did he have the right to the corner? It wasn't very possible to see from the angles that we had. But I'm sure that there are going to be some unhappy lads in the Discord after that one. GSR Edwin, at the moment, 0.3 of a second within Aero Racing Design. This battle that we thought was going to be over with, as it turns out, still in the heat of the battle here, as Edwin's going to retake that 4th spot into the first corner. Will he be able to hold on? I think he's got that car length ahead of him. Yes, he does. Nicely done from Edwin to strike back. Although I will say, it's not really helping that Scornsy is about 3 seconds ahead now. So these two really are going to be battling for position here come the end of the race. Scott Palmer wants in this battle as well, trying to find his way into competitiveness with the two ahead. Will he be able to find it? That's going to be a question that will answer itself within 8 laps' time. Tiger NASCAR nearly lost it over the entrance curb to the Rajah chicane there. He's able to hold on to it. He's got Dusty Lusky in pursuit. He's trying to chase down Impossible Bacon, who not long ago, I have to say, was in a much better position than he is in now. Not only does he have a DRS disadvantage here, he's got Tiger NASCAR and Dusty behind him, and Bacon, I mean, has already had that incident before, just a couple of laps ago. It'll be interesting to see. Aero Racing Design, does he strike back at Edwin here? Does Scott Palmer find a way into this battle? It doesn't look as if he's got the straight line speed pace to do so. Right at this moment right now, is Aero Racing Design getting around Edwin? It looks as if, as we've got, I believe that's Kate Thomas off towards the back. Mitch Burns, 3-second penalty, multiple warnings. I was about to say, Aero Racing Design, between himself and Scott Palmer, had nearly a 20-kilometer-an-hour difference between the two cars there. So, where one in the Alfa Romeo may be gaining up other places on the circuit, anything that has to do with a straight line might belong to Aero Racing Design. And by the way, Monza's got quite a few straight lines. So, it looks like, has to be said, Scott Palmer on the back foot at the moment, but at least he'll have DRS to Edwin ahead, and that's enough to kind of reel him into the situation. Meanwhile, it looks like Aero Racing Design now, I believe is Scornsy perhaps made a mistake somewhere, because Aero Racing Design suddenly within 1.5 seconds of the McLaren ahead. And that's good news for him. He'll want DRS to break this pattern and to break off away from Edwin. But he'll have to make his moves quickly, because it has to be said, is kind of running out of time here. Starting the, I believe this is still starting the 22nd lap of the Grand Prix. 6 laps to go. Edwin's going to look for it down the inside. Nothing there. Scott Palmer once again is able to kind of... Dusty Lusky, oh, hang on a minute. Dusty Lusky and Hoxton side by side heading into the Redafilo chicane. It looks like the Williams of Hoxton's going to pull out in front nice and easy. Bacon has dropped down to 11th. He's been overtaken by Tiger NASCAR. Edwin still 0.6 of a second. To say these past couple laps hasn't really put the pressure on Racing Design. I don't want to say that. Just at the moment, he's not closing in like he was. Got Palmer pretty much equidistant between the other two in this battle for the spot. Although we have a yellow flag towards the back, it's Dusty Lusky. Oh no, could that be a safety car, lads? That's on the circuit. It's a safety car at the death in Monza. Where has he done that? It's a double retirement for Scuderia Ferrari today. And that is hard to tell what he's done there, as he lost it coming out of the second Lesmo. It's very possible. Race day, I think he hasn't stopped yet. Everybody's stopping now. Everybody as well going on softs, except for CPI Tebrum, who has stayed on medium tires. Ooh, this is interesting here, because we have race day behind, now on fresh softs. Hoxton stays out. That's an interesting little... Corley has the fastest lap as well. Geez, Hoxton has the fastest lap. So not only is CPI Tebrum on perhaps a tire disadvantage, at least now he will have the comfort of GSR Hoxton being on 13-lap-old mediums behind. This may have been a good play from Hoxton, because will the drivers behind him have enough time to re-overtake him? It'll depend on how long the safety car stays out. 23rd lap of the Grand Prix. Yeah, it'll be hard to say, will it? Scornsy not far behind. Aero Racing Design, he's on fresh mediums as well. Everyone else, fresh softs. Goodness gracious. This is going to be one hell of a fight to the finish here. I'm going to step aside, only for now. The safety car is in this lap, and this is the big question. CPI T-Brum on fresh mediums. Everyone else behind him, except for that of Aero Racing Design and Hoxid, on fresh softs. But Hoxid, second place, didn't stop onto the most recent safety car. How much of a roadblock will he be for the likes of Race Day 2016 and for that of Scornsy? Williams, so far, their best finish of the season is second. Aside from that, it's fifth. They'll be looking for a good result today, and right now, they might just get one. We'll have 3 laps of racing here left to go in Monza. T-Brum has gotten away, and I have to say this really, he has gotten away scot-free from the start there. Nobody choosing to be aggressive into the first corner. Race Day 2016, I feel like he will need to do just that. Have that position separate himself and Scornsy. Get himself firmly a foothold in the championship. Does he do it? Does he pull off the move into the Rajia chicane? Yes, he does. Does he break too deep? No, he doesn't. Beautiful move from Race Day. I wouldn't say an act of desperation, but by God, he had to do that one. He had to do it quickly as well. And now the chase is on between himself and a win. However, does T-Brum have too much pace for the Alfa Romeo behind? At the moment, it seems like just that. 1.5 seconds as Scornsy, side by side with Hoxid, into Ascari. Is it clean? The trek through. Scornsy uses all the track he can to stay clean next to the Williams, and he does just that. Moves up into third. He's made quick work of the Williams there, but does Hoxid strike back? He's going to look for it around the outside. Will he have it through Parabolica? Is he going to try to switch back down to the inside? No, because his teammate of Aero Racing Design on fresh mediums is right there. Could he be the spoiler to Scornsy's day? Race Day's got the fastest lap of the day so far. However, he is still 1.2 seconds behind that of CPI T-Brum, who's had a brilliant getaway to the safety car. And will he have enough time to chase down the Mercedes up front? Well, I tell you what, the Mercedes is going to have to make some sort of a mistake here. Race Day, looking for his second win of the year. T-Brum, looking for his first to become the 4th different winner of the season so far. Aero Racing Design, within 0.3 of a second of Scornsy. Kate Thomas taking away the fastest lap. That's a yellow flag toward the back. That looks like, I don't want to say a large one because it's only Tiger NASCAR, but geez, that was in a very inconvenient place to have that accident. Thankfully, no one else has been involved, and we can continue racing. 1.2 seconds separates Race Day from T-Brum. They'll have 1 lap of DRS if he can even get to that point. Because right now T-Brum, it has to be said, has looked flawless all day, from the start of qualifying to the finish of the Grand Prix. Can he keep it that way for 1 more lap? Aero Racing Design within 0.3 of Scornsy. How hard does he battle the McLaren ahead? You can arguably say that Scornsy has the pace advantage on the tires, but that in itself wouldn't necessarily be true. It's looked like Scornsy in his own right has been on the back foot the most of the day. DRS enabled. Who comes out on top? It looks like Scornsy is just going to have too much for the Williams behind. Oh, but Aero Racing Design nearly, and I mean nearly, we're talking inches there, almost comes into the back of Scornsy, almost absolutely flattens the McLaren ahead, and thankfully that wasn't the case because that almost turned ridiculously clumsy for a second. Speaking of clumsy, T-Brum hasn't displayed any of those qualities so far. He's had himself, and it has to be said, a perfect day so far. He won't be having a Grand Slam as it stands. He won't. Race Day behind's got that fastest lap. But by goodness, he's had every right to call it as about as perfect of a day as you could possibly get. Here's Smith Pelly's going to look for it on Hoxid into the Ascari chicane, and by goodness, that's an odd place to make a move. Oh, but Hoxid's spun out there, and he's lost 2 positions to Edwin and got Palmer. Aero Racing Design, I'm afraid, isn't going to have enough for Scornsy this time. Coming round the final corner, the fourth different winner of the season, it's CPI Tebrum taking it home in his reserve role for Mercedes. Their third win of the season. Race day, a valiant effort from him, comes home second. I'd say cements himself in the championship battle. Scornsy, however, finishes right behind in third. Aero Racing Design, great effort from him in fourth. And Smith Pell rounding out the top five. So after it's all said and done here in Monza, it's CPI Tebrum becoming the fourth different winner of the season. Mercedes' is third win of the year. Race day second. Third, Scornsy. Fourth, Aero Racing Design. Fifth, Smith Pell. Sixth is Scott Palmer. Seventh is Edwin. Eighth, Hoxton. Ninth, Lancy. 10th, Shariah. 11th, Dace. 12th is Impossible Bacon. 13th, Tiger NASCAR. 14th, Cake Thomas. And unfortunately, everyone else behind did not finish the Grand Prix. Minus, I think Mitch Burns, did he finish? I can't quite remember off the top of my head. Anyways, next week, we head to Shanghai, I believe. Is it Shanghai or is it Beijing? I can't remember. Anyways, we're going to China next week for round 7 of the Division 1 season. Hotspot, thank you very much for joining us this week. I hope you all had a very wonderful Christmas. Have a happy new year as well, and we'll see you next time.